When you left the service, you probably had some questions. You probably might have asked, what's next? You may have asked about what it is exactly that you are going to do now. You may have asked about higher level philosophical concepts like, what is my sense of purpose? That is what is coming up in today's episode. Huzzah, and welcome to DD214, the podcast for people leaving the military. I am your host and retired veteran, Eric. The mission of the DD214 podcast is to create a space for transitioning service members and veterans. Today's show is sponsored by my wife, Wendy, and her web design business, Coop Creative Consulting. Wendy designs custom websites to get your business, podcast, or church found online. An expert with Elementor, Canva, WordPress, and numerous other programs, Wendy designs custom websites to level up your online presence and boost your business. If you are looking for a bespoke website or someone to maintain your current site, head on over to wendycoop.com and book a free good fit call. Now back to the show. Leaving the military is exciting. It's also comforting, in my case, as a retiree, because I got that pension. And even if you don't retire, chances are you're qualified for at least 50% disability if you've served more than a few years. So you're going to get money, and you're going to get that for life. You're going to have a little bit of financial security at the very least. And in the case of Wendy and I, we have, between the two of us, 2 disability payments because Wendy is also a veteran. I also have my pension because I served 20 years, 7 months, and 6 days in uniform. That's what my DD214 tells me anyway. And looking at my DD214, I also have 11 years, 7 months, 7 days of duty on ships. So, pretty long career. And I feel that I definitely earned that pension. So, what that comes down to is I have a guaranteed stream of income for the rest of my life. As long as I don't commit a felony and go to jail, then they'll take that away, at least while I'm serving behind bars. That's what happened with Duke Cunningham, the representative from the 51st Congressional District of in San Diego there when he went down. He's a retired commander. I'm a retired commander. He lost his congressional pension out of that whole deal. And he wasn't getting a pension during his 8 years and some change behind bars. But short of doing anything stupid like that, or if I decide to renounce my citizenship and become a communist or something and move to China, I got my pension for the rest of my life. It's pretty nice. What it means is if I don't work today, I'm not going to wind up living out of my car tomorrow. It also means that it's not very likely, unless I'm completely bored and have nothing else to do, that I'll be greeting at major retail establishments and such when I'm in my 80s or beyond. Of course, the military is more of a young person's sport, right? And I retired at the age of 42. I actually turned 43 on the day I retired. On January the 1st of 2022, I actually turned 43. That was my official retirement date. I am now 45. So I'm middle-aged. I'm not too old to work. In fact, I spent the past couple years going through about 3 different jobs. And for one reason or another, I quit 2 of those and I got laid off from the other. It happens. But I've got that income stream. We can tighten up the belt. We can eat ramen noodles. We can eat Kraft dinner or macaroni and cheese, things like that. We could be all right. We're not in extremis. That's a comforting thing when you have completed a full career in the military and now you hang up your uniform and there's a little bit of, I guess, flex space, battle space. There's room for us to grow and decide what we are actually going to be about in this next chapter of our lives. So I'm very thankful for that. I thank the good Lord for it every day, and we're doing all right. Nonetheless, the transition from the military into civilian life is definitely daunting. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. You got to think about things you never had to do for all these years, like write a resume. What exactly is a resume? How do you write it? How do you keep it short enough that it'll actually get read by the headhunters? How are we going to navigate in this new AI-centric world where the resumes are going through the AI machine and they're getting filtered, they're getting thrown on the cutting room floor, they're being tossed in a circular file by bots, basically. How are we going to navigate that? That's a different episode. But those are things that you have to think about as you're getting ready to leave. Now, the career transition courses that I talked about in earlier episodes, the Transition Assistance Program, TAP, all the other things like Onward to Opportunity, where you can have basically a complimentary course to get a certification to make you more marketable in the outside world. All these things are going to be on your mind. You're going to get bombarded with information as you're going through the transition process. And even after you get transitioned into the civilian world, you're still going to be having all this information coming at you all the way, all the time. And it could be mind-blowing. It will definitely boggle the mind. So the good news is that now that you're leaving the military, you now suddenly have this thing called freedom. We're not going where they tell us to go. We're not in a job or a career where if you decide to not go to work or you decide to mouth off your boss, you actually don't go to jail for that. Everybody who's served in the military, we know if you tell your CO to sod off, you're probably going to go to jail. That's just how that works. So now you have freedom, but with great freedom comes great responsibility. And that's where I'm at now. I was immediately in December of 2021, I was immediately hired into a contract job, which actually started about 3 days before my actual retirement date. And I thought it was a great fit at first. I was very excited. I went, okay, well, got that knocked out. I got hired for the part-time job as well. Going, all right, world's my oyster. Life's good, right? Well, fast forward a year, I hated the job. Hated the full-time job. Just hated it. Just stopped going. Just started calling in sick all the time. And there were people who knew about my service reputation, which I won't say I had a bad service reputation, but that's also going to be a future episode too about the dangers of social media. If people know who you are and they know what you posted on social media and they know that you have some kind of contempt for the system, they're going to try to find a way to fire you. And it got toxic enough that I just said, adieu, and I was out. Done. The part-time job, the company was really counting on landing a major contract, didn't land the contract, and they had to cut. They had to cut people. Nobody likes to have to do that. Trust me, if you got people working for you, you don't want to have to let people go. If you don't have to, but that was a business decision. I just happened to be the only guy who wasn't a lawyer or an engineer in that company, so there you go. That happens. No harm, no foul. I'm still friends with all of them. I completely understand. I started another job in a completely different industry as a contractor with a wealth management company, and that lasted about 2.5 months, maybe. I was good at the job. They told me I was good at the job. I was killing it. I was the best student in the training that they've ever had. They told me I was on fire. I couldn't do it. It just wasn't for me. I won't talk anymore about that, but it wasn't for me. So finally, the entire couple of years that I've been retired, Wendy had been telling me, "Hey, you just need to not go to work." I said, "What do you mean I don't need to go to work? I got to make some money. I got to keep us comfortable. I got to build us up some buffer, some wealth, some, a budget, things like that." She goes, "No, you got to work for you." I said, "Well, I'll table that." Now, she's been doing this for a long time, being self-employed, having her own company and everything. And I just wasn't seeing the light. So now I'm seeing the light, and I'm in about the first month of actually doing this. I haven't made a single cent as of this recording on being an entrepreneur. But I go to the conventions and I go to the industry meetings and I meet people and I get advice and I get pointers on how that could actually happen. So that's what I'm doing. And if this doesn't work, I still have my applications in. I still have a clearance, which I will talk about in another episode. The next 2 episodes are going to be about responsible use of social media and about what it takes to maintain your security clearance after you left the military. So looking forward to that, but those are the Easter eggs for that. Now, going through a bunch of different jobs is not all that unusual, not for transitioning veterans. In fact, I recently saw a post on LinkedIn from an Air Force veteran who tried about 6 different jobs in her first 1.5 years of being retired. It's like she does a job for 1 year or for 3 months, then another 3-month job, then does one job for a month, and so forth, just trying to figure out where she fits. The good news is that there are opportunities out there. In fact, if you go to clearancejobs.com, they are predicting that if you have a clearance, and we all do basically as transitioning service members or recently transitioned service members, we have clearances. I have a clearance. It's looking good. There's optimistic predictions, at least in clearance jobs, if you take that as gospel, for a whole bunch of opportunities to open up for us. So if you're just kind of sitting here and you're like me and you got 4 or 5 different OPM applications in for GS positions and you're not hearing anything back, and those are the ones you haven't already been rejected for, but they're just, you go to usajobs.com and you're looking and you're seeing that your applications are still in a holding pattern. It's not an indictment of you as a person, and it doesn't mean anything necessarily. That means that they just haven't actually made a hiring decision for those positions yet. So keep plug in if that's what you want to do. And I would like to get back into the GS job. I would like to start putting money back into my TSP account because I cannot do that now as a retiree because I am not a participant in the plan. It's like a 401k at any other job. There's a lot of opportunities. Things are going to look optimistic this year. That's what I think. But again, I'm going to talk about the clearance thing, about what it takes to maintain a clearance, another episode about responsible use of social media and how that might impact your clearance. That's coming. And I already have those episodes written. I just have to record them. So anyhow, at the end of the day, being retired with a pension is great because you have associated security and stability. I know, like I said earlier, I'm not actually working for anybody right now except my wife and me. And I'm not going to live in the car tomorrow. I'm not going to be standing on a corner with a sign with a cardboard sign or anything like that. I'm not going to be working at Walmart when I'm 90 years old waving at people. It's not going to happen. I think I've been able to get into a position where those things are not going to be considerations at some point. Now, I had a conversation last week when I was at our annual convention, Podfest, down here in Orlando. Well, it's about 2 hours south of drive for me. But yeah, we went to the annual podcast convention, and I was having lunch and I was texting my buddy back in DC I used to work with at the part-time company up there. And he hit me to this thing called Ikigai. And it's a 4-circle Venn diagram. One circle is what you love. The next is what the world needs. After that is what you can be paid for. And then what you're good at. Now, where what you love and what the world needs, where that overlaps, it's called a mission. Where what the world needs and what you can be paid for, it's called a vocation. What you can be paid for and what you're good at, where that overlaps, that's called a profession. And what you're good at and what you love, that's called a passion. The goal of Ikigai is to get into the middle of this Venn diagram and hit that. It's a self-realization. It's kind of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you are going from, well, everybody knows, I'm sure most people listening at least know Maslow's hierarchy. It's a pyramid, and at the base is the things that you need, like food and shelter, right? Like the bare minimum that you need to stay alive. And then you start moving up different tiers and you get to that self-actualization. That's what Ikigai looks a lot like. And that's a little bit different. At first I thought, oh, this sounds kind of like a raison d'etre, but I think I said that right. I don't know. I don't speak French. Never took French classes, but I think it's a raison d'etre. Did I say it right? I don't know. But the raison d'etre is is basically why am I here kind of thing. So those are things like I like the base of Maslow's model, like stay alive, have food, have shelter, have protection. And then you move up one level and you're going, okay, I'm taking care of my family. I think that's probably where a raison d'etre is at. But this Ikigai concept seems a lot more cooler. It seems like more of a, maybe instead of going vertically like in the Maslow's pyramid, you're coming at it from different directions at the same time and trying to figure it out and trying to drive yourself to the center. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm giving this podcast a go. And why I feel a sense of optimism about what has yet to come. As far as another point that I made earlier, which is about that sense of purpose, I find it in volunteering. I volunteer at my church. I do parking duty. When people park their cars, I tell them where they can park. When there's newcomers to our particular church, I welcome them. I direct them to the nearest entrance to the building. Wendy, my wife, is on the care team, and she greets newcomers and makes them feel welcome. She gives them a card to fill out. You fill out the card, you get a $5 voucher for the coffee shop across the street, which the church also happens to own. And that's really rewarding. I also am an avid scale modeler. I've been doing that ever since I was 8 or 9. I've been doing this almost 40 years, actually. And I am a member of the International Plastic Modelers Society. We build kits. We buy kits at the hobby shop out of plastic. But, of course, what's the point of just putting it together as it comes in the box? There's a whole aftermarket out there. And there's all kinds of techniques for the painting and everything else that you can do to make these models just kill it at competitions. In fact, I'm going to be volunteering in a few weeks after this recording date. Today is the 29th of January. I'll be there in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, volunteering at our local convention where people can show up from all over the world and enter model kits that they've built and get judged in medals and everything like that. So it's something I also find a lot of joy in. I also volunteer most Saturdays at my museum ship, USS Orlick, Jacksonville Naval Museum. Check them out. It's a historic ship. I bring my dog with me most of the time, and the visitors love my dog. She's a beagle, and everybody loves beagles, unless you're allergic to dogs or you're just afraid of dogs. I give people their space, of course, but I do that as well. So I find my sense of purpose in doing all these things, and of course in recording this podcast, because we all need purpose, right? Anyhow, I wish you all the best of luck as you keep moving from your military life into your civilian life, and how you transition and everything else, and what you're going to do for income, sense of purpose, just to be a happier person. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So again, thank you for tuning in to this episode. Be sure to follow the show on my website, theDD214podcast.com, in your favorite podcast app, on my YouTube channel at Eric Coop, that's ERICCOOP, and you'll know every time there's a new episode. Be sure, of course, to share this episode with your fellow service members and veterans. Again, my name is Eric. This is the DD214 podcast. Until next time, huzzah.